preacher usually identifies a person who delivers sermons or homilies on religious topics to an assembly of people, although one can also preach components of any worldview or philosophy. In some traditions a preacher is largely synonymous with evangelist. Preaching is not limited to religious views, but it extends to moral and social worldviews as well. The word preach usually refers to the proclamation of the gospel of Jesus Christ, that is evangelism. Most modern Christians also define preaching as a monologue delivered by clergy, normally to laity, that educates the listeners on additional areas of theology more relevant for someone who is already a Christian. History: preachers are common throughout most cultures. They can take the form of a Christian minister on a Sunday morning, or an Islamic imam. A Muslim preacher in general is referred to as a da'i, while those giving sermons on a Friday afternoon are described as a khatib. The sermon or homily has been an important part of Christian services since early Christianity, and remains prominent in both Roman Catholicism and Protestantism. Lay preachers sometimes figure in these traditions of worship, for example the Methodist local preachers, but in general preaching has usually been a function of the clergy. The Dominican order is officially known as the Order of Preachers. Friars of this order were trained to publicly preach in vernacular languages, and the order was created by Saint Dominic to preach to the Cathars of southern France in the early 13th century. The Franciscans are another important preaching order. Traveling preachers, usually friars, were an important feature of late medieval Catholicism. In most denominations, modern preaching is kept below about 40 minutes, but historic preachers of all denominations could at times speak for well over an hour, sometimes for 2 or 3 hours, and use techniques of rhetoric and theatre that are today somewhat out of fashion in mainline churches. In many churches in the United States, the title preacher is synonymous with pastor, or minister, and the church's minister is often referred to simply as the preacher, or by names such as Preacher Smith. Sometimes the minister may even be addressed by using the word, such as "Good morning, preacher." However, among some Chinese churches, preacher is different from pastor. A preacher refers to the younger clergy in the Protestant church who are not officially recognized as a pastor until they can prove their capability of leading the church. A preacher cannot administer sacrament, for example the Holy Communion and the baptism. Other uses: preacher is also the author of the Book of Ecclesiastes according to the King James Version. Preacher is one translation of the Hebrew word gigahertz. There is much debate about the identity of this preacher. Many believe it is Solomon. See also, media related to preachers at Wikimedia Commons, list of Christian preachers, list of da'is, preacher's kid, prison minister. Notes. References: Francis, Keith A., Gibson, William, A.L., The Oxford Handbook of the British Sermon 1689-1901, 2012 OUP, ISBN 0199583595, 9780199583591, Google Books.